Hello, everyone. So, just want to go through a quick short story before we get started. And just yesterday, my 7-year-old asked me what the word priceless meant. And I didn't know exactly what to say, but I will tell you that there is absolutely something priceless about being inundated with G.I. Joe figures like we were when we were young, and maybe a little bit like we were as adults. Were, are, past tense, present tense, doesn't matter. Like I say, we're live and I can't edit. So what I tried to explain to him was that it's something you can't put a price on. And when we were young and we had to deal with these hugely articulated figures that were in a very playable scale that also happened to have these massive vehicles and massive playsets with an amazing cartoon, amazing commercials, amazing comics, a not so amazing movie, which we can argue about till we're blue in the face. I thought that is what the word priceless means. And then as an adult and learning about G.I. Joe again and collecting and restarting your collection all over again, where to start, how to start, it's overwhelming. You get that inundated feeling all over again. Hi, everyone. My name's Ken. This is Toy Connections Online, or T.K.O. And I'm supposed to be joined by some friends today, and I got one backstage right now. One sends his condolences, and I think one's running a little bit behind. But the good thing is, all the way from Australia at the wee hours of the morning. And when I say wee hours, I literally mean hours that he's supposed to be asleep. It is 2 a.m. in Australia. But from Sergeant Slaughterhouse, we have Xazyl Phoenix, my
Oh,
man.
good morning. Good morning. I'm awake. I'm awake. I'm here.
Much appreciated, buddy. So much appreciated. Oh, and I'll start by just plussing in your super chat before I say hi to the or your super sticker. I appreciate you sending this in. And Matt, my man, how are you on this fine morning? Do I say it? Like the sun hasn't even come up where you are.
Well, it's difficult to explain what kind of morning it is when you're technically supposed to be asleep, getting up in a few hours for work. But I guess sacrificing sleep to talk GI Joe is always welcome. I'll always get up early or stay up late, depending on how you look at it.
Like I said, it doesn't go unnoticed from someone like me, as if, especially right now. And for those who were wondering, Jay Bartlett sends his condolences. He had to cancel just a little bit before this, and Adam Hodgins from GoFigure, I think he's running behind. The stream was his idea, so I don't think he forgot. But the idea of starting a G.I. Joe collection, actually, the thumbnail is actually his image. So technically, he's collaborated on this stream even without knowing it. Well, he knows now. But yeah, so I'm just going to quickly say hi to the chat. You know, we had Michael Traverso here. We've got Gazz, and unfortunately, I'm plussing this in on StreamYard, which is why you don't see the fun, the fun emojis. But on YouTube, you'll see it in the live chat. You know, we've got Xazyl here with his super sticker, like I mentioned earlier. We got Jeff Morris. Who else we got here? We've got Woodman29. We got Charles Phillips, and we are triple streaming here to the Toy Connections YouTube channel, the Toy Connections Facebook page, and the Canadian Toy Gallery Facebook group. So if anyone is on the Canadian Toy Gallery Facebook group, because of the way the settings work in a Facebook group, your name will not show up when your comment goes in. It'll just say random Facebook user, and you'll have to enable your StreamYard to be able to plus your name in. So if I don't pull your comment up, that's the reason. Don't think I'm ignoring you. But we have a riveting discussion here, regardless, about the start of a G.I. Joe collection. And Xazyl, I know everyone knows where to find you anyway, but I'm probably going to forget to mention at the end of the stream. So why don't you tell everybody where we can find you?
Yep, you can come and find me, usually not this early, at Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse, where you'll also see my good friend Ken. I see in the chat there's some lines saying devotion to duty from Gazz, and Charles saying appreciate your sacrifice. I'll tell you, it's no sacrifice at all. Yeah, I'm happy to do this for my good friend Ken.
Mm-hmm. Much appreciated. So, I mean, we'll jump into the topic at hand about where does one, if someone came in as an adult and maybe as a kid these
Yep.
days, how they would potentially even go about starting a G.I. Joe collection. There's hundreds of characters, hundreds of
Right.
vehicles across those initial years, and that's not even counting the modern stuff, like the classified or G.I. Joe style figures, you know. Um, there's like, where would if someone asks you for
Hey, Ryan.
advice, you know,
Well, look,
what would you
let
do?
me tell you, from a perspective of a kid collecting in this day and age, I've got no grand words for you, man. I don't. The kids shouldn't be picking up 3 3/4 inch GI Joes. They should be looking towards the future and buying up whatever keeps the brand alive. So they should definitely, if they're into it, get into the classified stuff. Going back and buying the 3 3/4 inch stuff, as much as we like it, isn't going to help the brand. So if they're into GI Joe, they should definitely get into the classified stuff. Probably priced out as far as HasLab stuff is concerned. But from an adult perspective, I can tell you this: if you have some inclination to start collecting GI Joe, whether it's because something you found now
Mhm.
or whether or not it's something that you collected when you're a kid, I think the best way to go about it is to just pick up those ones that mean something to you. So think
Right.
about maybe who was your favorite when you were a kid, which one is one that you always wanted to have but weren't able to get until now, or just one that you thought looked pretty cool. And so you just sort of start there. Like we've got a good friend, Brendan, who started his GI Joe journey, and he sent me a picture of his stuff. And it's only a small collection, but it is so well put together that you can tell that he's put some thought into it. He's got a couple of Sergeant Slaughters in there, so I can't not like that collection. So
And Brendan is definitely developing his collection. Definitely somebody who I love getting on to chat with him because he's just so passionate about his stuff. Now, we're not going to roll to commercial break. We are going to plus in another guest here. This is actually an individual. The first time I ever did this kind of recording, it was this individual who actually invited me onto his channel to do that. A customizing expert, and actually the person whose idea it was to do this stream, like I mentioned earlier, because he's actually just getting back into GI Joe now after having gotten into it, gotten out of it, gotten into it, gotten out of it, and is back into it. Adam from GoFigure, welcome to Toy Connections Online.
Hey, there we are.
there he is.
How's
What's
everybody
your
doing
excuse?
today?
Doing great. We're doing great. How are you, buddy?
Fantastic. I'm doing good, my man. It's pumped up to be here to talk about some GI Joes and why Ken's probably collecting them wrong.
Yo, Joe.
Are those Detolf? Is that Detolf display new? Last time I saw you, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so my displays have been changing over the last few months. Where I used to have 3 mismatched cabinets in my collection stays in my office at work, so it's hilarious.
Yes.
And so I was able to buy a second Detolf, and then I'm like, yeah, they all need to be Detolfs. So then just last week I got a 5th one. That's all that's going to fit there. So now I got to figure out to be more creative with the Detolf space. But yeah, so it's new, and as you can see up there, that's where my GI Joes are living there now.
Yeah.
Top of the
Yeah. I'm gonna bring you up full screen here. Let's see. I'm still very much a StreamYard rookie, but
Yeah,
there we go. If you guys can see,
Oh yeah.
I think
That's
that may have been what I used as the thumbnail for this.
It was a version of that. It was top of the Detolf 2.0, and now
Yes.
we're at 4.0 right now, because it's all about. So the thing about Joe's, or one of the thing about Joe's, is there's a billion figures, right? There's just so many Joes that you're like, there's stuff you don't even know what's out there. Like, I think if someone tells you that they know by name every GI Joe that came out from 82 to 94, they're just like a vicious liar. Like, they think that, it's bananas to think that. But there's also like an equal amount, it seems, of vehicles. And so where if you in a 2022 action figure line, if kids get one vehicle in the line, like, they're lucky, right? Like a 3 3/4 inch line. If there's a Batmobile in line, that's all there's going to be. And with GI Joe, there's just like this onslaught of like vehicles for just consistently coming out. And so you get your display going on, and you're used to just setting up figures, and then you got to find room for all these incredible, like, to scale vehicles, right? Like, it's like, here's a to scale F-14 Tomcat, put that on your shelf, figure it out, right? Like, it's bananas, but it's also what made the line so memorable and impactful as a kid.
And reusing the tooling and everything as well. Yeah. So just really quickly here, Ryan Sweeney, thank you for the super chat. And he says here, if you were looking for vintage figures, check out flea markets or swap meets. Very true. Also, if you were looking on eBay, buy lots and you can work on trades for other figures you like. I think a lot of people have caught on to the whole idea of buying lots. But you know what, Adam? Because it was kind of your inspiration that kind of got this going, I'm just going to pull up an image here and I'm going to share. As I get ready here, because I should have done this earlier, but how do you share a screen? There we go. Apparently you can share a screen by going like this.
Oh, Peppermint Oil Capsule is here. How are you, buddy? You didn't miss much, mate. Adam showed up late. That's about it.
Yeah, Adam showed up late, says I'm collecting wrong, and then said something about mismatched cabinets. Other than that,
That's right.
That's about it. So
that's all I wanted to say today.
So talk us through this the start of getting back into a G.I. Joe collection.
Okay, so G.I. Joe is a collection that had as a kid, loved as a kid, like played the crap out of as a kid. To the point where like my childhood G.I. Joes can't stand because their knees were too like weak. But because it's like Star Wars, and I would say even like a modern equivalent would be like Marvel Legends, because it was out for so many years and was so big, it was very intimidating to get back into starting to like build a collection.
Correct.
The whole idea was like, where do you start? And unlike, so I would say, if Ken was like, hey, I'm going to start collecting superpowers. Where do I start? I was like, oh, you start with Superman, Batman, and Robin. Those are like the core characters, and everything else comes from there, right? Like that's you're safe to do that. But if I said to you, like, if I said, so there's 3 of us here in the room, and I said, who's the leader of the G.I. Joes? We're all going to have different answers and not be too sure of them.
Right.
Like I'm sure that Xazyl would say it was Sergeant Slaughter without a shadow of a doubt.
Is the leader? No,
he's just the best one.
That's right.
But like some people would say Duke. Some people would say like, Hawk. So, like there isn't really like a quintessential G.I. Joe, and the rest, they're all kind of on equal playing field. So it becomes like I can say intimidating to say like, where do you start? And also I think for me, like I have rules of collecting, and so for me everything in my collection needs to be something I had as a kid, right? Like it can't be anything. Nothing modern. And it has to be something I had as a kid, or at least a line I had as a kid. And I need to display it. I don't want to have anything in boxes hidden somewhere, because I'm like, there's no point to that. So you say, okay, so I'm gonna do G.I. Joe. I'm gonna dive into G.I. Joe. Do I buy just one G.I. Joe and put him in a shelf and display him? Like, or do I build up a collection in a box and waiting for it to be display ready? Like it was this whole real kind of like quandary that's in my head. And then my friend was cleaning out his garage, and he says, I have a box of broken G.I. Joes. Do you want them? And so the answer, of course, is always yes, especially on my channel, because another one of my rules is every toy I have needs to be a rescue. It needs to be something that needed a little repair or some kind of fixing. I rarely buy complete mid figures. They all need a little hug.
Right. So and sorry, just keep going. I gotta see to a kid, but I know your channel is definitely one of those like heavy customization, which by the way the description is below. But just keep going for a second. I just gotta see to a kid, but keep telling us the story.
So he said, "Do you want a box of broken G.I. Joes?" And you don't know what that's gonna mean. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll take those." And so he gave me this box, and it had a Mobat, a Vamp, a Ostriker, a Ram Cycle, and like 20 figures that all needed O-rings.
Is that all that was as far as broken was concerned? That the O-rings were snapped?
Yeah, they were just broken O-rings. A couple broken thumbs, but not a lot. Just some broken O-rings.
Yeah, right.
And so I did the afternoon of like, I'm going to put this, these guys back together. And so all of a sudden they had 20 Joes and like 6 vehicles. And I was like, well, this is display ready. I can get back into this now. So all of a sudden you kind of start going. And once you start down that road, it's pretty tough to turn around. As he kept cleaning his garage, he also found a whale in there that he gave to me.
Oh, that's great. And
so that's pretty nifty. So that's going to be a big video coming up, is just the restoration of the whale, because
I'm looking forward to that.
Complete. It's got some rare stuff, like it's got the bike and it's got the cannon, but it's missing like the sled, and so there's some stuff there that I'm gonna. It's gonna be a fun video to put together. But so he found that, and he found the shell of the Conquest. Actually, hey, Scuba Pete. the Conquest video that I did, that was a shell that he found in his garage as well. But once I had that rolling start of 20 figures and 6-7 vehicles, then going the next toy show I went to, you find all like the beater bins full of Joes for like $5-10 a shot, and I was like, wow, this is just gold. And so you're just picking out. But like you were saying, the ones that you loved as a kid, because again, there's so many Joes, and G.I. Joe's is one of those lines, I think, more than others. So when you say like the big three of the 80s, Joe's, Masters of the Universe, and Transformers, I think that each one of them had their strengths. And one of the strengths that Joe's had was it ran for 12 years. So I was born in 81. So when I was getting into like the cognizy of like, action figures, it was like 87, 88 when I was hitting my stride. But I could talk to a guy who was like 18, 20 years old, and he played with Joe's as a kid as well. So it was just this thing that was always in the zeitgeist, and like, there's different generations of them. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live, right? Like everybody thinks the Saturday Night Live cast that was there when they were in grade 11 was the best cast of any Saturday Night Live. Like, we all had our Joes. So if you told me like, what's your alpha squad? Like what's your dream team to go out there? It'd be like Muskrat, Falcon, Chuckles, and Spearhead. Like those are my 4 guys. Which to some guys are just like throwaway Joes. Like they're not.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say Muskrat was in their top 4.
Well, there you go, right? But I loved him. And so you find him in a bin for $5, and all of a sudden you have your favorite alpha team ready to go. And it grows from there.
Actually,
like,
can you pull up that photo again, Ken? I just want to point something out as far as collecting is concerned. So having a look at this collection, which is a superb collection, and I will say that your setup is also so superb.
Oh, thank you.
But when you're collecting G.I. Joes, I can see that you've got a couple of Falcons happening here.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, when you're looking at all the numbers, you actually are spoiled for choice as far as which version of a character that you want. So you don't have to have every character, or you don't have to have every toy, so long as you have a representation of that character.
Right.
So you got the what was that? The Sonic Fighters Falcon.
Yep.
And then at the top there, you've got the regular release Falcon. Yeah. And you don't. Oh, yeah. I see some of your top 4 up there as well. Yeah. But you don't have to have that. You don't have. I mean, obviously you've got 2 here, and that looks great. But if you're deciding that you're going to put together a team and there's all of these characters to choose from, just start eliminating some. Yeah. As far as how many doubles have you got, and which is the one that you want to have in your collection. So, I mean, you've got 2 versions of Storm Shadow here, which I guess you could argue is one is a Joe and one is a Cobra. So that sort of works too. I guess the biggest one for anyone might be which version of Cobra Commander would they choose if they can only have one?
Yeah, or Snake Eyes, right? Like I think, so I have version 2 Snake Eyes and version 3 Snake Eyes. And version 2 is worth more money, and it's more iconic, and it is like a perfect. It has timber, like it's got everything going for it. My Snake Eyes as a kid was Snake Eyes version 3. So like arguably Snake Eyes version 2 is a better figure, but Snake Eyes version 3 was the Snake Eyes I had as a kid. So you're like, until I got a sweetheart of a friend hooked me up with the Snake Eyes, I was content having version 3 Snake Eyes.
Right. So I just want to go back to the thing you said earlier about like if you want to talk to somebody who is a few years older than you, like Jeff Morris said up there that he collects 82 to 86. And for me, those were the core characters from the cartoon. So like while you guys are kind of leaning towards like pick your favorite characters, when I got into Joe's again in 2003, one of those things that I wanted to do was collect all the characters from the cartoon. And I did kind of the same thing with Transformers. If it was in the show, it had to be in my collection. So with Joe's, it was the same thing. If it was in the show, it had to be in my collection. Same thing with the movie, except for Cobra Law, which I always crap on. But so like it's just interesting to see like how the advice to new collectors unfolds and evolves as far as like, okay, you chose to start this way. You chose to start this way. I chose to start this way. right? So like whatever information we're all kind of pulling together here is something that a new collector can kind of jump in. And I think what was said earlier was if you're advising a kid, you know, we would advise them to get into something like classified, right? Bigger scale. It might be a little bit more rewarding.
I don't want to go against the grain here, but I think in telling a kid to start investing in classified is going to make him bankrupt by the time he goes to college.
That is true. That is true. Getting beaters at the flea market, like Ryan was saying earlier, is one of those ways to kind of get going.
And an interesting thing about my collecting GI Joes was, 14 years ago, when my wife and I found out we were having a baby, I said, like, if it's a boy, I want to collect him Joes so that on his 5th birthday, we can just play GI Joes and have a huge battle. And so I went through this whole thing about like collecting. I collected 100 GI Joes for him for his 6th birthday, or just for 5th birthday. And so that like scratched the itch of collecting Joes, because I was like looking around for them. But then I gave them to him, and then my daughter as well. And to this day, like they're still like their kind of go-to toys to play with, and it speaks to the playability of the GI Joe scale and the articulation. And it's just like they are toys that will always be fun. And I think with classifieds, they're designed for you and me, right? They're designed for collectors that want to recapture that that nostalgia, but by doing it in like a different scale and whatnot. So like, I don't think they're kids' toys. The classified ones are.
Yeah, it's just that because of the articulation and the way they're done are kind of like Marvel Legends, and Marvel Legends are kind of like that in between kids toy, but also an adult collectible. But where the kid may not have the attachment to GI Joe, they can go on Disney Plus and get all the access to the the Marvel Legends stuff. But
even Marvel Legends, whenever a movie comes out, there's a Marvel Legends run and there's a kid run of action figures, right? And even in the same scale.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I just see that as like that. I don't think classifieds belong in the toy aisle. If they want to sell GI Joes to kids, like make kid affordable pocket money GI Joes, right?
Well, even the O-ring ones are $20-something.
I know.
All I'm saying is, if a kid woke up today and was like, I know what I'll do. I'm going to get into GI Joe.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. And it's never going to happen. The kids are into GI Joe because their parents are into GI Joe.
Yeah,
that's it. End of story.
Yes.
You see, a lot of posts on Facebook sometimes asking for, well, who's got some cheap Joes that I can buy for my kids? And it's like, well, are your kids into it?
Right.
Because if they're into it, don't buy them the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Get them some good stuff. If you want value and you want to give them something of value, give them something that they're going to appreciate. Don't give them a junk toy and say, here's GI Joe, I love this. They're going to look at it and go, well, that's just junk.
Right. This is skid mark, crazy legs.
If you want them to be into what you're into, which is basically all it is, then you want to spend the money and give them something of value to translate that into, this is something of value to me.
Right.
Not, you're my kid, but I bought you this cheap piece of junk and I hope you like it.
Yeah.
If they're 4 years old though, and you just want them to kind of have a figure to bend around, like you guys were calling them bendy figures on the stream yesterday, Xazyl. I think that'd be a little bit different. But if they're 10 years old and they kind of want to set up a battle sequence, then I would go with the classifieds. I think it depends on which age of the collecting spectrum.
So it's, I wonder if like actually the best GI Joes for kids to collect now would be the like retro series, the 5-foot articulation ones, right? They'd be durable, and they're just that's all kids need to play. That's all I needed to play when I was a kid.
Well, Space Commander will tell you that 5 POA is the best
scale ever.
I never complained when I had Star Wars that they needed more articulation.
No.
We were when GI Joe came out, we're like, I got the term bendy figure from Space Commander. Now I use it all the time. But when we did have the bending elbows and swivel and everything, we were like, this is amazing. But I wasn't missing it until that point. I thought it was great when I had it.
Even after that point, right? So like GI Joes were what they were, and they were incredible, like just incredible. But then when superpowers were around, I didn't buy Superpowers and be like, oh, I wish it was articulated like a G.I. Joe.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
That's what G.I. Joes are. This is what Superpowers are. Like it wasn't. You didn't miss it. It was just this is what G.I. Joes are. Mm-hmm. And then I remember when Cops came out, I was like, they're just like G.I. Joes but bigger.
I didn't even notice there was an O-ring inside, but I guess there was a bigger O-ring inside the whole time.
Yeah.
Xazyl, which of the slew of Sergeant Slaughter photos did you want me to pull up first?
Oh, either one. I'm not really fussed. I can talk to any of them and all of them. Yeah.
Any and all of them. Okay.
If it's Sarge, she's gonna go for it.
Okay, so be prepared to be a little bit shocked, people, because we all know where this guy's collection would start. If so, have you ever seen this many mail away Sarges in your life?
No, sir.
This is an out of date photo too, by the way. I haven't, since I've moved, I haven't put them all back on display. So this is an old photo, but yeah, my goal of collecting 777 Sergeant Slaughter figures. Oh, that's a tongue twister. It's gotten me to about 400 plus at the moment. Actually, that's a good point on the Super 7 figures. They are not kid friendly at all. They're not even adult friendly as far as price is concerned. But yeah, so when you said as an adult collector, what gets you back into it for G.I. Joe? Well, for me, I didn't intend on having this many mail away Sergeant Slaughters. Mm-hmm. That was a later obsession, but for me, I ended up starting my renaissance into O-ring collecting by picking up specific action figures that would work for projects that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I knew I was going to be doing the Slaughterhouse Wrestling Championship. So I started picking up figures that I thought would fit in that sort of category. And so I found newfound appreciation for, that's Triple T Sarge. I need to figure out an updated amount of how many of each I got. I didn't even send you a picture of how many Warthog and Marauders Sarges I have, but tell you what, they after a while, it doesn't quite line up like you think it's gonna. When you get to the fourth or fifth row and it starts to wobble a little,
That's incredible, though. It looks incredible.
Oh, thanks, man.
I love that. So I gotta get your honest opinion. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion of the Slaughters, Marauders, Sergeant Slaughter?
So I put him out of the four of them. I put him at the back end, like the fourth in the four. But I've got a sort of love-hate relationship for Slaughters, Marauders, Sarge, because I don't necessarily hate the blue on him because it gives him a different look. I just think that the skin tone is the worst part of it. He has what I call there he is. And they all do. They have what I call supermarket mannequin skin tone. Mm-hmm. And they are very brittle. They were actually all of these guys were made in Brazil by the Estrella company before they started branching off into doing their own Joes. They sort of made this line, from what I understand, as a test to see how they could, produce these figures, and this is what they came up with. Yeah. And altogether, I mean, they look good. I think they look great. The blue is not as jarring as you think it would be. It's an odd choice. I'll give them that. But everyone needs a vacation, and I imagine that this is what Sarge wears while on vacation.
So I would say that on his own, like Sergeant Slaughter, that figure by himself looks great, and I put him on the shelf no problem. I think the team together looks a little ridiculous.
I hate that they didn't paint his wristbands, so he's just got lumpy wrists.
Right.
But even overlooking that, it's the skin tone is the worst part, because the thumbs will break on that thing whether or not you put anything in them, and you can notice none of these guys are holding anything for that reason. But yeah, you can't just switch the arms out, for ones with painted armbands because the skin tone's so different.
That's crazy. But it's a sweet collection. They look kind of striking all together like that.
Oh yeah. I found a newfound appreciation for the Marauders. I actually told myself that I was never going to get a Marauder Sarge because I just wasn't into it. And then my
Nice.
obsession hit me, and I was like, all right, I've got to have at least one. And then I had to have at least everyone that was ever made ever.
from every international market known to man.
Yeah.
I guess.
Do you ever get any flack for like people that say you're hoarding them all?
So I've actually stopped buying them on Facebook because when they were up on there, as far as, and particularly in the G.I. Joe group and the Australian G.I. Joe group, whenever they did like a claim sale, I'd always be like lightning fast, and I'd pick them up. And then after a while, you start to see, oh, this guy again, or this guy, this guy's buying them all. Let us all have one. And I decided after that that I would stop buying them from Marketplace. So if I do buy them, I buy them on eBay, just like anyone else can, so that it does. Because, everyone should have a Sarge in their collection.
Yeah.
And, so I did sort of back off as far as that was concerned, because it was actually starting to get some negativity thrown my way.
I don't
but yeah,
nearly that many, but I do have and I look at it as a rescue project, but I have a hard time not buying a Dick Tracy when I find him in a bin. And so there's a couple guys who are like, "What's with all the Dick Tracys? What are you getting at?" And I'm like, I don't want them all. I love them so much I can't leave them there hanging out for $1.
The minute you find the blank for $1, is that become a rescue or a repair project? Does that become a, hey, here's some college funds project?
Yeah, it's.
I know you won't find a blank in there.
Well, that's an issue here in Australia, is that we don't really find this stuff in flea markets like you guys do in Canada and America.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. My main source is the internet. Or so all were those Facebook groups. But yeah, I've never found a Sarge in the wild, and if I did, I wouldn't be able to leave him behind either.
No, it's. Yeah, there's some figures you're just like, oh, this needs to come home, right? Like, there you go. So, yeah, I'm like that with the original release He-Man as well. If I see one, like, especially when he's like naked and naked and afraid, you can't
save him.
You gotta like pick him up. You're like, I'll take you home. I'll fix you up. It'll be okay.
So the one thing I wanted to jump into as we talk about like where to start a collection, if you're truly committed. Right? Like if you're not, I get that most people will probably dabble in a little bit. They'll try to get their favorite character. If it's too expensive, like you were talking about version 2 Snake Eyes earlier, Adam, they might just grab the figure. And if it happens that the figure has a backpack stuck to the back of the peg, great. If you're truly committed and you're trying to rebuild that childhood nostalgia, you'd have to grab either the one you had as a kid or the one that you really, really wanted as a kid. And for me, these two, this is a picture of my, I took this a few years ago. I haven't had the chance to display them in all their glory like this for a good number of years now. But like, as a kid, the Mobile Command Center was everything to me because I got that as a birthday gift. It was the only time my dad ever played G.I. Joe with me. So if someone had their equivalent of a Mobile Command Center, whether they had it or wanted it, that could be anything. It could be the Thunderclap. It could be the 83 headquarters. It could be the Defiant. Flag, Terrordrome, 92 headquarters, you name it. You build around it. You get that, you build around it. Assuming you've got the space, right? I don't display it like this. I display it folded up and tucked into the cabinet in the big wide open space, kind of off to the right there. And then the Rolling Thunder was kind of that piece that I saw in catalogs. And I know you see figures displayed on it, but until I saw it in hand at Toy Traders, I never got a feel for just how big it was. And when I got it and realized, just like, because it's a rolling vehicle, so you don't necessarily associate it with being kind of like a headquarters size thing. Then you get it, and you're like, man, this thing is as long as the Mobile Command Center. It's actually just as deep as it when the Mobile Command Center is stacked
That's what she
up.
said.
Right, sure, yes, and we have. If I was Jay from Geek Dad Life, I'd have the ba-da-bum and all the and all the funny sound effects right now. But I'm not that quite high tech right now, so we'll go with that's what she said. It's not as tall as the Mobile Command Center, unless you count the nukes piled up like that, like Scuba Pete says. And you kind of just put everything else around it. Right. And so to me, that's another thing. But this is a bigger commitment, right? Some people will do this up front when they get back in. They know they're going all in. Like maybe they already have, like Adam said, like a He-Man collection. right? And they knew that, okay, well, I had a Castle Grayskull and a Snake Mountain, so what's my Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain in G.I. Joe? And in G.I. Joe, it's hard to know exactly what is your Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain and Fright Zone, because you have so many options.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also too, like with the thing with Joe, where again I say it's an intimidating line, is just some of the sheer sizes of these vehicles and home bases and whatnot. So like I say, I have a whale and I've been working on that. It's gonna be a great video. But there's no way the whale is going to fit into my display. Yeah. So I know that once he's done, there's going to be this hard decision of like, well, what do we do now? Like, we got to revamp this whole thing to get the whale in there, because the whale is too cool of a toy not to have displayed and be a centerpiece of your collection. But it's so much real estate to take up, right?
Yeah.
I think the whale was the first of the Big Joe sets, right? There was like the whale, Rolling Thunder, Terror Drone.
Vehicle wise, yes. The 80th headquarters, I think, came out before that. And the Dragonfly was long, but it didn't occupy as much real estate as the whale. So the whale was probably the biggest vehicle to come out first. Yeah. I think it was an 84 vehicle from what I recall.
Yeah. And so, so you got to have a part of it. But again, it's a commitment for Joe's to be like, it's almost like Joe's are enough of them. And there's so much. It's almost like you could have your entire toy collection and then equal amount of space for your Joe collection.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when you measure the real estate you have, like the Rolling Thunder, I was never going to buy it just like this, because when I got it, I wasn't sure, was I going to restore it and then sell it? But then somebody suddenly said they had a box, so I bought the box, and I knew from previous experience that the box fits exactly the clearance between the top of my bookcase and the ceiling was just enough room with a centimeter to spare to get the Rolling Thunder box. So I slide this thing in sideways, and it's sat on top of my bookcases ever since then. So if I didn't have the real estate for it, I wasn't going to be able to do it. And I saw the Thunderclap not 2 weeks ago at a toy show. The booth next to me had a Thunderclap for a good price, and I really, really wanted it, but I said, you know what? Don't know where I'm going to put this thing. I got a Sky Striker from HasLab coming in. I got a RoboSkull coming in. Might be backing a certain Hiss tank, which we'll get to a bit later. Where does it all go? Because that's another thing, another piece of advice I would give to a starting collector is, where the hell do you put everyeverything?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you said about the box and displaying it in the box. I like that. There's no joy for me, especially in a concealed cardboard box. But again, some people love it. So I have one of my best friends who's also a collector. He actually lives down the road from me. We met doing a toy deal, and I was like, "Where do you live?" And he's like, 2 houses down the road. He loves the boxes. So like, he's got a great mass collection. It's just all these boxes on a warehouse shelf. I like to see the toy and be able to.
Well, yeah, a sealed box is the same as an empty box, right? It all looks the same.
It all looks the same. So it's actually quite funny. If I buy a toy in a box, I just give him the box. Like, I bought the Dick Tracy Getaway car, like mint in box. I just took it out, gave him the box. I was like, here you go. That's for you. I'll take the car, and now we can stay friends.
So that's why, to me, if the box is open on one side and you can slide it in and out for photography reasons, that's fine. My issue is I threw a bunch of stuff on top of it, around it, the side of it, and I can't actually access it anymore. So it may as well just be a sealed box. I don't think I've seen my Rolling Thunder in the past 3 or 4 years now. So
yeah. And it's to me, like, boxes sometimes just feel like they're still in storage, right? Like, I want to be able to take it out. And one of my favorite things is the how quickly someone can come into your like collection room or display room, whatever it would be, and they're like, "Oh, you're a toy collector," and they kind of do a little bit of judgment. And then 30 seconds later, they're like, "Oh, look, it's Sergeant Stiletto. I had that. Oh, cool, like an Ostriker. I had that." And you're like, all of a sudden, they're there with you, right?
Yeah.
So the first time that happened to me, I was 21 years old or something like that. I was living at my parents' place because I hadn't quite moved out yet. So my bedroom was kind of my man cave, and normally I have the door closed, right? I had no idea what happened, but my brother's friends, I came home one day and my brother's friends were in my bedroom. I was livid, but I couldn't say anything because I'm sitting there like, I just don't share that. You got to bear in mind, this is 2003, maybe 2004. You don't just go sharing this kind of thing. And they're like, "Yeah, we love your Transformers collection. It's so great." And I was caught somewhere in between, oh, I'm so flattered, to what are you doing in my goddamn bedroom? Right now, that guy's girlfriend, who ended up marrying, follows Toy Connections now. So I guess I made a lifelong friend out of it. She might even be watching this stream. Hi, Kath. Who's just finding out right now that I was really embarrassed the first time she walked into, my toy collection room. But
You know what?
it's like,
I will
like you
say
said,
this.
I was scared about the judgment. Is what I'm trying to get at. Anyway, sorry, Xazyl. Go ahead.
I will say this. Unless you have a Ferrari, don't tell me that I could own a Ferrari if I didn't collect all these toys. All right, I know how much I'm spending, but if you don't collect toys and you don't have a Ferrari, then what makes you think I would have a Ferrari?
There you go. There you go. Right. So
100%. No, this must be worth a lot. I always answer to like, I don't know what it's worth. I just know I like it. Like I just.
Why don't you sell it? Well, if I sell it, then I've got to buy another one.
Yeah. If I sell it, I won't have it. I bought it because I
That's
love
right.
it.
I want it. That's why I've got it.
and I always have thought about, like, okay, if I just committed the next, like, let's say 3 years of my life to selling everything on eBay, all my whole collection, let's just say, and let's just say that could make enough of a dent in my mortgage that I would be satisfactorily paid off. Well, what's the point of doing that, dreaming about retirement years? What would you enjoy in those years? Something's got to fill that void. And to take away collecting, how do you fill a void that big? I don't know. So when people say buy a Ferrari, I don't know. Maybe I'd buy a Nissan Rogue. I just pick on that because that's the car that I have now.
Is it the Star Wars edition that says Nissan Star Wars Rogue?
No, I'm not that cool.
We think you're cool, Ken.
I think you're cool, Ken.
I think I'm cool too. So
yeah, that's funny. No, I remember when we sold our house in Kitchener, and I had a whole room for my collection before we had 2 kids. And the real estate agent came in. And she was like, staging your house to sell. She's like, well, this all has to go. We can't have this in here. And I was like offended. I was like, listen, I put a lot of work into these displays, making them look great. This is a selling feature of my house.
That's right.
And she's like, no, you don't understand. This is going to turn. Nobody would buy this house. I'm like, I would buy this house.
That's right. Yeah.
If I saw this. So I ended up taking it down, and the house didn't sell for a while. So I blame the lengthy sale and the fact that my toy collection was put away.
Yeah,
but it's not like the toy collection was coming with the house.
Right. But people, when you go look at a house and there's like cool stuff there, whether it's going or staying, it has an impact on you. It has.
Well, that's right. It stands out.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I had like a similar but kind of opposite experience. When a couple years after that experience I told you, where I found people standing in my bedroom the day I came home. A couple years later, I went to look at an apartment because I was going to buy the place and move out. And all of a sudden, like, I disappeared into the den room in the middle of the showing. And the real estate agent's like, what are you doing? I was literally eyeing the den room as the man cave, and bookcase there, display shelf there, display shelf there. And for the first month or two after I bought that place, I swear I just lived in the den room because it was my man cave. Now, I don't have a true man cave right now. I have a display space, but it's just, even just walking into an empty space and knowing where your display space can go is a selling feature of the house. That's why I bought that condo. I was in denial at the time as a guy in my mid-20s. I bought that condo 90% for the reason because I knew where my collection was going to go. The rest was just convenience. That's all. Yeah.
So I might have to redo my Joe collection, add some more tiers to it if I'm going to put the whale up there. I'm trying to design what that can look like, because real estate.
Well, I mean, if you have some sort of water theme, you could have everything else built on top of that.
Yeah.
Tactical battle platform.
Yeah, it could be.
Hydrofoil. Yeah,
it's fun, right? Like I'll be like, I'll be home a little late. I'm working on the display, and my wife's like, oh, okay, you do what you got to do. But when you can put it together and pull it off, it looks pretty great. And I actually have my Joe display now going right into my Motu display with the same kind of clip.
It really works, though. It really works.
It does.
It works for the Joes. It works for Motu. I'm always in awe of what you are able to do, and you make it look like it's easy, but I'm still like, I couldn't do this. You're like, oh, you just very quickly print this, 3D print this one out, and you just very quickly trim these edges and just cut around this part. And I'm like, oh, hang on, I've got glue on my hands. What do I do?
It's like, and he did it all in a 6-minute tutorial that was up on his channel. That's what it is. And I'm sitting there 6 hours later, and my hands are stuck like this from the crazy glue. You know.
For the longest time, my good buddy would be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna fire up the Cricut here." Every time he'd hang out with me, he's like, "Are you gonna fire up the Cricut and print something off for me?" So,
oh man.
But no, it's good stuff. And the thing too is like, with collecting Joe stuff. Joe's, I think, more than any other action figure line ever, like past, present, future, came with like the weirdest amount of like small, losable accessories, right? They're like, here's this guy's headset, here's his cell phone, here's his car keys, this is his rabbit's foot he goes into battle with. Right? It was just like everything you can imagine. And so it's been fun collecting the figures. It's been really fun diving into like a 3-dimensional space and designing the accessories that I don't have and printing those off, and like workable versions of them, right? Like that to me has been a real fun way to kind of keep, because really I always say that like when we collect figures and we work on our displays and customize it, it's just us playing with our toys, but just as an adult, right? So you have to sit down and go pew pew pew, but you can sit down for like an hour and design up Snake Eyes weapons and try and make them as close as you can so that you can print them off and have them. So that has been, again, in the last month when I've been doing G.I. Joe stuff, it's been pretty fun to be able to dive down that rabbit hole and do that again.
Making your own collection, basically, literally making it.
Yeah, here, I'll show you what I'm really proud of here.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, how far is your office from your house? Like, is it pretty quick?
It's about 15 minutes to my.
It's not that bad. Because if I had my whole collection in my workspace, I would never want to leave work. Like, I'd want to go there 7 days a week and stay there for 16, 18 hours a day.
Well, I hope to focus at home a little bit more. I just knocked everybody over here, but it's okay. I'll get them. There we are. Mm-hmm. I also, the G.I. Joe stands drive me crazy because they're so big. For like the ones that came with G.I. Joes.
You got to get the circular Ian's display accessory ones.
Well, I've printed up my own.
Ones. Very similar. Yeah, the circular.
Oh, nice.
Ones. It's a good idea.
But I designed up all of his stuff. So I designed up his gun and working nunchucks, and then even the backpack with the sword that goes into it. Designed those up and printed those off. So that took like a $5 Snake Eyes and made them essentially complete on the shelf to look at. And like,
that's cool.
You can't really that to me is the fun part of what G.I. Joe is unlocking now.
Well, there's a story behind what you just said. Like, it's not like what you did. You didn't just go, and I know there's a reward factor to it. Go and just buy something complete and be like, yes, there's an accomplishment factor. I spent that money, I shipped it to me, or I picked it up. But you went through an actual lengthy journey to get the accessories. Print your own stand, make them look complete, at least for shelf aesthetic purposes, even though I know there's a lot of people there who are anti-reproduction, but your reproductions are always a little bit different. They're not exactly one-to-one.
They're not exactly one-to-one, and I also like to repair mistakes I think Hasbro made. So like Storm Shadow version 2 had those red swords, and I thought they were stupid because they were red. So I gave him 2 black ones, the same as Snake Eyes, and then gave him a backpack that holds both the swords. So I was like, that to me would make more sense than a weird red sword.
I agree. That red sword is like, you're a ninja. Why do you have a red sword? But whatever. It was 1988.
They made their decisions, but I'm like, this to me is like, that looks better on my shelf. And is it? You get two sides, right? Because you get guys who are like, oh, no repro, and then you get guys that are like, oh, it's not original. It's no good. Like it's you're all over the place, and you're not going to please anybody. So just please yourself.
Yeah, your collection is for you. I mean, I used to have this problem. That's another thing when starting collecting is I used to say to people, oh, you think I should buy? Well, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And unfortunately, I thought I was inundated and overrun with just how much there was to collect. But the amount of advice, know-it-alls, people mansplaining, because I was a beginner at one point too, right? And ultimately, and the cookie cutter answer of collect what you like, whatever speaks to you, it's very cookie cutter and doesn't really help. So the only thing I can say to people out there who are just starting out, go with your gut, because you will know the organic feeling of, I'm going to get that, versus, should I? Right?
Yep.
I go through that with modern figures. The should I wonder. I just did it with the His Tank, right? And it's because you want the character, or you want that vehicle, but you may not know if you want it in that exact version, that exact style, that exact scale. That's more where the decision comes in. But if you don't have that character at all, in Xazyl's case, person doesn't have a Sergeant Slaughter. They know when they see a Sergeant Slaughter, they've already made the decision. It's just about getting it into the collection, right?
Yeah.
The advanced decision comes later. Do I want the Mattel Slaughter? Do I want the Valiver Slaughter? Do I want the future classified Slaughter? Do I want, or even before that, do I want the Marauders and the Warthog version? Or do I just want either the USA mail away version or the Triple T version?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're 100% right. It all comes down to like what you want. And
Hey, Justin.
Hey, man. If we're doing this to impress anybody else, then we're doing this awfully, right? Like we're collecting wrong. If we're, I don't want to have, and that's part of why one of my rules is like I can't collect anything I didn't have as a kid, right? So like my buddy who's really into Guts, he loves like the Guts figures.
I remember those. Yeah.
I'm like, that's great. I never had those. They never intrigued me as a kid. I'm like, they're just fancy Green Army men. Now I know they're more than that, but they didn't intrigue me as a kid. So to me to go out there and try to collect it to have it all, like it doesn't bring me any joy, right? So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna collect just because I wanna collect things, and my collection's gonna look exactly like how I want it to look. And I would also like I prefer custom and artisan and 3D printed Motu figures in the vintage style as opposed to putting origins in my collection. And guys, like I watched your stream last night, Xazyl, and the guys that were like, hey, you can put the origin stuff right alongside your vintage and they look great. I'm like, yeah, they do 100%.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love that they love that. I don't love it. So, but that's okay. We can both exist in the same space and neither one of us has to be wrong.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Look, I want to point out there's a comment here from Gazz saying, "Don't collect beyond your means and get what you like." So yeah, that is true. But that reminds me of something where people can often buy something for a large amount of money and put themselves out of pocket. But another danger that some people don't realize until they're in it is collecting a lot of little things, thinking that it's only a little bit of money, and then by the end of it, it's created this large sum of money in its parts, which has actually happened to me before. I got into a bit of strife some years ago, where I was probably at the peak of my obsession for getting all these Sergeant Slaughter figures, that people started inundating me with messages. Oh, I know you're into Sarge. I've got this one and it's only this much money. I'm like, oh yeah, bargain. And then they just kept coming in like that. And then by the end of it, I tallied up how much they were all going to come to. I was like, this is going to send me broke. They're individually, they're only very, they're very reasonably priced, but altogether, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision in the moment on what I was going to do. I needed to either let some people down, or I needed to work out a way to, work at paying at it rather than throwing a big lump sum at it.
Yeah.
And that was at that moment there and thanks, Gaz, for bringing that comment to my attention. It was at that moment there where I realized that this can be a real problem if I let it be.
Yeah. It's funny. Well, it's not funny because, you see guys go into debt and really just cripple themselves over hobbies or stubbornness or all manner of things. So early on in my marriage, so on top of my toy collection, I'm also a guitar player, and I have a large collection of guitars as well. And so the rule that my wife and I, she didn't tell me what the rule was. Hey, Hans. She didn't tell me the rule. We came to it together. We just, mutually agreed that I could do whatever I want with toys and guitars, no questions asked, as long as the bank account stayed the same.
Yeah.
So any money going out for guitars or toys has to be generated by guitars or toys, right? And so that, you know, we're never going to be, you know, without milk for the kids because I bought Snake Eyes version 2, which sounds ridiculous, but I've had friends who like kind of put themselves into a similar position as that because, you know, it's Wednesday, it's comic book day, and they subscribe to all these different comic books, and that just becomes a monthly bill. And so, you know, budgeting and, you know, finding a way to support your own hobby is killer. And also, I don't tell people how to manage their money because it's none of my business. But what works for me is if, you know, guitar lessons and buying, selling, trading toys, buying, selling, trading guitars generates enough money that I can grow my collection, then I'm okay, and I'm not gonna go beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah, and this is the thing that when you get into it, even when you get into a rhythm of what you're going to buy, you might think, okay, well, I know exactly what I'm going to get. Then something comes your way that you didn't expect, and you've already spent all your budget. Then you have to try to justify something else. I had this problem last year, like, and I know this is a G.I. Joe stream, but I'm never not going to either mention one of wrestling or Transformers, but the Grand Maximus from 1988 was a really cool character in the cartoon overseas, and it was kind of a continuation or a sibling type of Fortress Maximus. Suddenly it came up. It was boxed, almost complete. It was an obscene amount of money. And I had to try to find a way to rationalize, because the last time I saw one come for sale locally, it was 2004. So 2004 to 2021, I didn't see another one pop up on the market locally. It's an obscene amount to ship it, especially from someone you don't know or don't trust. But then you have to maybe leave a little bit of extra budget or something you can sell quickly in order to justify that unexpected purchase.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing can happen now with the Hiss Tank or the Kickstarter with Operation Recall. That's a few $100s. And I want to support Carson's cause. And I know that when they do a Kickstarter, there's over a month to get the funds to support that thing. But you also have to find another way to fund that, right? I mean, maybe you've got the money sitting around. I know I try to keep a little bit sitting around just in case the family wants to go for dinner or something like that.
It's like bags of money around your house.
I mean, well, I never look what's inside this mattress over here over here to my left. It might be fluff. It might be $100 bills from the previous owner. Wait, no, I'm the first owner. Okay, there's definitely not $100 bills in there. So yes, got to find money in other ways other than looking under your mattress. But yeah, it just comes to the same point. You don't always know what you're gonna buy, and you don't always know what to expect, and things can fly out of left field.
And we also have to be okay saying like next time, right? Like every toy that I've ever bought thinking like, oh, I'll never find this one again. I've definitely found it again. Right. But we tell ourselves like, if I don't buy this now, I'll miss this up. It'll never come up again. Two things we need to be okay with. Maybe I don't get version 2 Snake Eyes. Like maybe I'll never have them. Like maybe that's a reality. And
right. Well, I mean, I haven't had one for 40 odd years, so I think I'll be all right. Yeah.
Right. But there's this perception of like, you know, my hobby brings me joy and whatever it is. But we need to choose to be joyful people, and our circumstances of what we find and what we can find, they can bring us moments of happiness. But if not completing the collection is going to be like the detriment of who we are, then maybe we shouldn't be collecting at all.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also not just the detriment of that, but like when I've been in situations where someone gets something and then another person in your immediate circle is like, oh, well, he got that figure, so I got to get it too. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's not an easy figure to get. Like I once got a club exclusive, right? And in the den room that I was talking about earlier, I asked a friend to come visit me to pick something up. He walked into the den room and he goes, "Oh, you got that TF Club exclusive? How did you get it?" I'm like, all of a sudden, whatever we were going to talk about, he completely forgot. Every question was about how I got those things and how he wasn't aware. And when he got home, all he did was search and search and search. And 2 days later, he got the same thing. And it's just like, but why are you collecting based on what I have? I didn't even know you wanted these, right? And it's just like, you don't, like all of a sudden, like I felt terrible because for those 2 days until he found those club exclusive figures, and I actually make a video about those figures later on, not about him, but about how they weren't even that great, right? It's sitting on my channel. Say what?
just make a video like, this is my dirty laundry. My friend thinks this is cool, and this one.
And I don't think it is, but I didn't actually include that in the video. But I do make a video about those. It's the TF Club exclusive Dion and Punch Counter Punch figures, and I didn't. A few years later, I got rid of them. I didn't think they were that great. But for like a couple of days, I had this like unwanted control over somebody else's collection because he wasn't going to rest until he found them because they were already sold out from the club by the time he got on to look. But I don't want that kind of power or control over somebody else's collection. Like, don't let somebody else's collection.
But there's also like, maybe there's just not enough to go around. Like the Origins Wondar that happened a couple weeks ago. Like they're just.
Oh yeah, the Wondar
wasn't enough, right? So you're like, okay, so you need to be okay with not having it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like you didn't get it. That's tough. Maybe you'll find one on eBay at some point in time, and
I did get my shipping order though, so I'm okay.
You got
the Wondar. That's another thing, right? Is when you talk about figures you're not going to find ever again. Like I mentioned that Grand Maximus, the original Wondar, Scratch the Cat from TMNT, or certain Joe's Complete Night Force, or a foreign figure from the UK Tiger Force, Tracy. The blank from Dick Tracy that we talked about earlier, right? How are you going to get them? Now, there's a lot of people who put like a Tiger Force Outback from the UK as something of a holy grail of sorts, but then maybe you buy the classified one and it's more affordable. Maybe that fills the void, because is the void the status of having the rare figure, or is it about just having that character?
There's a difference between the joy of collecting and collecting out of panic and fear. You don't. What's the point of that? I don't need something so badly that I'm going to give myself a panic over it. Like, I don't own that really awesome LJN inspired Sergeant Slaughter,
right?
But I'm not going to put myself in a position to break the bank in order to get one just so I've got one. I can live without it. There's photos of it. It exists. I know it does. And unless I'm going to manhandle it, looking at a photo is just as cool than, having it in behind a glass cabinet somewhere.
People have 3D printed that and painted it up after the fact, right? That exact Sergeant Slaughter, the LJN Hasbro style one, right? And the one that I have, I sort of got into it, right? It sort of landed in my lap because I walked into a store and there it was, right? Imagine trying to pay shipping on that, and say you buy it on eBay and the person declares the full value, you get hit with a bunch of customs, right? That expensive purchase you almost couldn't make suddenly got more expensive, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, and again, like I've walked into a local shop here and they had the blank there. And I was like, oh, the blank. And then it's like, you're doing the math in your head. And then you looked at it and you're like, oh, there's just, it was $1,000. And I was like, well, there's just no way I'm paying $1,000 for a toy. Like, I'm not, as much as this is cool, and as much as like, yeah, it's worth that because the community deems it's worth that. Like, that's how it has that worth. Like, it's not worth that to me. Right? Like, I didn't have it as a kid, so it's not nostalgic. Would it be nice to complete the collection? Yeah, it'd be nice to complete the collection. But not for a cool grand. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, and that's the thing, like, even the Grand Maximus that I mentioned earlier, like, that was well over $1,000. But I looked at what it was and and thank you, Action Pop Dad. Subscribe to GoFigure and Sergeant Slaughterhouse on here. That Grand Maximus, I looked at what it had to offer at the price point that it was at. First off, it was local. Second, it was one of my best friends who was selling it. Third, it's a figure that's just almost 2 feet tall. Yep. It's got a headmaster within a headmaster, a whole ton of accessories, a base mode, a spaceship mode, a really nice box with a lot of animation on, a lot of weapons. I look at it and I say, I understand why that is the price it is, right? As opposed to the blank. I couldn't justify it because it doesn't have enough going for it, whereas like the big Transformer I got, it had a lot going for it, right? And maybe people don't look at it that way, but that's how I chose to rationalize it in my head. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I regret the purchase.
And you're not wrong. There is a bigger buying force around the Transformers than there's Dick Tracy figures. But it's just like at the time, like if I had a bunch of extra money, maybe I get that. But at the time, I was like, that's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's not going to bring anybody joy if I come home and be like, look what
zero.
bought.
Well, the reason why I started doing the Slaughterhouse Wrestling Championship was because I wanted an excuse to start playing with my toys again.
This guy right here, he gets it.
Otherwise, as good as they look, if I'm not doing anything with them, what's the point of having all this articulation? What's the point of having all this playability if I'm not using it? And, if I'm recording it, it's not weird, right?
Right, exactly. And that goes with my channel as well. The reason we started the channel is like, I'm fixing these toys anyways. Why not just like fix them on the camera and have other people also learn how to fix them? Like it gives you another outlet to be creative. It gives you another way to like, again, play with your toys. And it gets you involved in the community, which is great because you find other people like I wouldn't know either of you guys if I didn't start, my channel. But it all comes down to like, these are things that bring us joy, and it's not about having them; it's about enjoying them. And what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, and you guys mentioned like the Joe Berg thing. Like that's the Slaughterhouse Wrestling Championship is kind of like trending in that Joe Berg direction, where you're kind of making a story and a narration around it. Right now, I don't play with my toys, as you guys know. I can barely get my boxes open and pull them out of the package, let alone play with them. So I have to do this sort of like eclectic setup. Like I like the photography of getting the group shot. Like you guys who watch my videos, that's what I do. I do that slow pan out and you see all the characters from that particular subgrouping, not necessarily the wave that Hasbro released, but like what Xazyl had with the Marauders, right? Yeah. Or like I'm going to do very soon, all the October Guard. And you go, oh, that coolness factor. I don't play with them. I'm not quite like you guys. I'm not very handy.
Last night on Xazyl's stream, it was the most Ken moment I've ever seen in my entire life. Like the most Ken. When they were like, I think Xazyl asked the question, what's your favorite version of He-Man? And you were like, I like the classics version. And it's just like an audible groan from the internet when you said that.
Tony put in a funny comment like that, but he also, the funniest comment Tony made yesterday on the stream was the one that I left the stream for. I'd left the stream. Hans Chow jumped on, and he'd been completely shaven, right? And what was the comment again, Xazyl? I think he said something like, "Man, I leave the stream for a few minutes, I come back, and they de-age Ken by 20 years or whatever."
Yeah,
whatever it was, just because Hans Chow was on, and he looked, and a clean-shaven Hans looks younger than me, right? A bearded Hans looks older than me, and I think that's kind of what it was getting at. But yes, and he also put in a big groan in the chat. Him being Tony, and Xazyl was kind of like, you and your cop-out answers, and yes, it was an absolute groan moment as everyone else was going, I like this He-Man, I like the battle damage one and the Thunder Punch this, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, classics riding Battle Cat because of all the articulation, and you can leave it in that one pose forever, and never touch it again. And yes, it's a very Ken moment. And when Steve from Joe Berg first met me, the first thing he said is, I see those displays behind you, Ken, but I couldn't do that. And this is because I was downstairs with my display cabinets. I got to play with my figures. And he pulls out his Shockwave that he's had for a long time.
Nice.
Right?
You would be proud, Ken. My son has been helping a friend of ours clean out his garage. And he used to be a collector, and he's kind of purging it. So I'm going to be doing an auction online for him pretty soon with some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, cool.
But so he paid my son a couple times. I was like, oh, like you don't need to pay him. Like he's helping out your friend, whatever. And he came home. He's like, so I got paid, but I also found this in the collection. And he let me keep it. And it was a mint in package classics first release He-Man.
Ah, cool.
Yes.
And he's like, look what I got, Dad. I'm like, great. And then I turned around and it was opened, and he had it out and was playing with it. And I was like, getting it on his. So my son now has a display case in his room. And I saw the package all around. I was like, I wonder what Ken would say if I almost took a picture of like the ripped package and sent it to you and be like, ha, Ken, we got one.
So on that exact same note, when I prefer to buy my Masters of the Universe classic stuff loose because I don't want to open the packaging. Well, One time I found a decent price, like basically the price, less than the price of what a loose one would go for, Scare Glow, but it was in the package.
Yeah.
And you got to bear in mind, this is Scare Glow, so there's already that lure of the original version. But I'm getting the classics version. It's already starting to spike in price. It's about 3 years ago. I literally go, how am I going to get the courage to open this? First of all, I'm not the best package opener already. Second, I've got to break the package of a classic Scare Glow. I look,
Let me tell you something, Ken. This is a piece of advice that I give to anybody that ever jumps onto Facebook and says, "Oh man, I've got this on card and I really want to open it. What do I do?" My advice is always, well, someone's going to open it eventually anyway. It might as well be you.
Mm-hmm. I
So
tried to rationalize
if you have
that.
an opportunity to open a Scare Glow off the card and be the first person to hold that action figure, well, then why shouldn't it be you?
Yeah.
So I went and I looked in the fridge, and thankfully there was some alcohol inside. Right? So I start drinking, and I try to open. I know this because it was 2019, right? And I start messaging friends.
With you about how like different we are in some ways. When you were like went to the fridge and there was some alcohol there, I was immediately like, "Oh, is he gonna put the alcohol on like the sticker paper and like is it gonna lift up so he doesn't wreck the box? Like, what's he gonna use the alcohol for?" You're just trying to take away the
liquid
courage
and anxiety. And I messaged my friend Jason at the time. I'm like, I take a picture. I'm like, I really don't want to open this. And he's like, LOL, what are you doing, Ken? And I take a selfie with my alcohol bottle and I drink. And I'm trying to rip it open, and I can't get myself to. And I drink some more, and I drink some more, and I drink some more. And by the end, I get it open. I purged the memory. I even got rid of the packaging to forget that I ever did, just so I could pretend that I bought it loose. But yes, it took a lot of liquid courage to get a classic Scare Glow off. And it had only been like a 10-year-old figure. It wasn't like I was opening a vintage figure.
Ken is going to be part of a very, very specific support group.
Yeah.
Like Alcoholic Toy Openers Anonymous.
Basically what it is. I mean, at least these ones back here, they're only a few weeks old, right? So they're going to get opened. That's okay. But imagine if it was like 10 years later and they were harder to find and I really, really wanted to display it. Yeah.
Just go for it, man. Open her up.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
I know. But anyway, so hopefully people here found some good advice for first-time collectors, what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, my advice, if you're looking to start collecting Joes, my one thing is like look for a lot. You can get them loose figures cheap. You can when you buy them a lot, you get more, and then because for me, it's all about displaying. So if I can get a lot of 8 to 10 figures, doesn't matter who they are, at least it looks impressive on the shelf, and then you can start growing your collection with specific guys you want. So look for lots. That's what I did. I lucked out and got one, and it's been a blast going down the G.I. Joe road again.
Now, for both of you guys, complete or not complete? Xazyl, what do you think? Complete or not complete?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what you want to do with it. I don't pick up complete figures because in the Slaughterhouse Wrestling Championship, no one's whipping out guns. Right? It's basically wrestling. So if someone has, I'd recently got gifted the Ken figure from Space Commander, and he had absolutely no accessories with it, and that's fine. It's like cool because he's not going to use knives. He's not going to use nunchucks. He's not going to use any of that stuff. He's just going to wrestle.
There's a Ken figure. Anyway, news to me.
Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so the real Ken. Got it.
Yeah, not Ken from Toy Connections, G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
the second best Ken I can have in my hands.
You're not going to get the first best Ken physically in your hand, so yes, settle for second best. That's fine.
I don't know. All I know is that you got to open that fridge and get that courage again.
That's right.
Never say never. Never say never.
I want to say that. How many years you been doing Slaughterhouse, Xazyl?
Just hit 1 year.
Okay, so I'm going to say for your 3-year anniversary, we fly you to Canada, we get a wrestling ring, and then anybody who's ever voiced a wrestler on your channel gets in the ring. We have a battle royale.
Oh, perfect.
Right?
Done.
That's the move.
Atoms and ideas, man.
He'll be drunk in the ring, so he'll be easy to throw out because of all the liquid he's drinking.
And
I think we'll all just end up getting drunk in the middle of the ring.
Just start singing a song together, all of us, Ryan, Sweeney, everyone else.
We're singing the Pile Driver song from the old wrestling album.
Oh God,
the cheesy one.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Ken, not complete. I want to avoid the complete. I want to buy loose. I want rescues, and there's fun of finding like, oh, I found so. My buddy who has gotten into toy collecting recently because we've been hanging out, and I'm okay with that. He found a marketplace. It was a sale, and it said, bin of Ninja Turtle parts. And so he sent me the listing, and it was in Hamilton, which is a while away. But my sister-in-law lives in Hamilton, and he said, I think there's enough parts in there to complete an entire Turtles sewer playset.
Ooh.
And she wanted $10 for the bag. So I called my sister-in-law and I was like, "Can you go pick up this bag of toys for me?" And she's like, "What? Just go pick it up." So then we got it, and we put together an entire sewer playset, except for the elevator handle and the sewer lid. So two pieces missing, but for $10, it was not so bad. But the other stuff that was in the bag, like there was all kinds of Turtles accessories. There was a full pizza launcher in there, but the back of Rhino, like the little cart that goes in the back of the masked Rhino, was in there.
Oh wow!
All of its parts. So I was like, because he was like, I'll put together the sewer playset, but then anything else is like fair game. So I was like, I took that and went over and put it in my Rhino, who was missing one. Snake Eyes version 2, his backpack was in there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's I was like, right in, and then I found about 14 G.I. Joe backpacks in there. I found a Max for Spearhead. So everything was coming up and so when you have incomplete figures, you get to then experience the joy of like finding those pieces to complete them as well. So it adds another layer to me anyways.
Well, you do such good work with the 3D printing stuff as well that you could basically just pick up a figure and go, yeah, I can complete this. It just, turn on the machine and off I go.
Yeah.
The accessories.
That joy too, right? Like it's that itself is another hobby that I'm like, I get to sit down and figure out how to. So I'm halfway through right now designing Sub-Zero's like big machine gun.
Yeah.
So that's coming along nicely.
If you've ever tried to complete a figure, though, like make a mission of completing a figure that has a lot of accessories, like I did this with my G1 Predaking. I bought the 5 guys, then I needed the helmet, then I needed both fists, both foot plates, 5 swords, 9 guns. It was very painful. Like it took a few years. And after that, I started leaning towards wanting stuff more complete than not. But that depends on the toy line. Yeah. It depends on the figure. It depends on my level of attachment. Like I just recently bought a Mr. T from Galoob, the 6-inch version, and that has a lot of tools inside the toolbox. And mine's near complete, but I don't have to have that one complete because all I really wanted was Mr. T with his weapon. That was good enough for me. The fact that it came with the toolbox, the belt, and everything, and most of it was just kind of gravy for me. And it was all for about $35 Canadian, so I don't know what that is, like 27 US, which I thought was a very fair price for what it was. But because I don't particularly take A-Team collecting quite as serious, I just wanted some representation. I was okay with that, right? But most of my vintage Joes are generally complete. I think one of my 2 Dusties, either the Tiger Force or the version 1, is missing a bipod, right?
I have an extra Dusty bipod.
You literally have an extra Dusty bipod.
It was in that bag of stuff. I'll send it to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you need a timber for your Snake Eyes?
I got it for my Snake Eyes. Okay,
that's fine. I was gonna say I've got a spare one of those if you want to make a trade. So
I love this community so much.
We'll figure that. We'll figure something out.
I'll just send it to you, and then we'll just be friends. It's okay.
We're allowed to be friends, apparently, in toy collecting.
I asked my mom. She said it's okay. Ken, you can hang out with Ken.
Okay, no, that sounds good. I asked my mom. She said it wasn't okay, but I'm gonna do it on the side anyway.
I said, I'm going to hang out with Ken today, and she goes, "What about that Australian fellow?" I said, "I gotta go, Mom."
Well, you can both crawl in through the window. I won't tell my mom, and we can just hang out and play Truth or Dare or Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, now we're playing Truth or Dare. Yeah, he's all for it now.
I'm all for it now. Truth or Dare. I dare you to open this box figure without any alcohol, and it's a 10-year-old figure now.
We are now 3 weeks away from Ken sending a message on Facebook. Are you guys excited for the Truth or Dare stream tonight? It's gonna be great.
That's got to be
Let's do it.
A follow-up stream.
Our views are going to go through the roof, and our subscriptions are going to go down. That's what's going to happen after the Truth or Dare.
I know at least one thing that's going to go up.
Whoosh.
You'll understand when you're older, Ken.
Yeah, I know. I know. Speaking of being about a month older, this is a little bit different, but this is what Hasbro's got right now with the Hiss tank and the unlocks, and it's a polarizing thing. When I was on with Ryan Dole from Toy Anxiety on the Yes Have Some channel and Jay from Geek Dad Life on Jay's stream there about just over a week ago, we were talking about whether or not, and this is getting a little bit past the beginner, but if somebody was jumping into classified now and they saw this, it'd be a little daunting, I would think. But it's also a his tank.
Well, if you were just jumping in, you wouldn't see it as necessarily something to have. The his tank is only something to have for us Joe fans because we know what a his tank is. But even though I'm a Joe fan, I for me in Australian dollars, I can't justify the price for this as much as I love it. Like it looks amazing, and the lights in it superb. But I'm priced out, so I'm not going to even bother.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I'm not a fan of the HasLab model of selling things. Again, I don't collect modern toys either, so like I'm my opinion means nothing to this. However, I miss when I see stuff like this, and this is going to be my rant here. And I'm trying to make it too crazy. When I see stuff like money and investment and time going into this, to me, it's money, investment, and time not going into making a new IP, a new toy, something that's exciting and new for kids to get into. There isn't toys for kids to get into, and because of that, like our hobby is going to be obsolete sooner than later, because we're in this world where like all the toys coming out are stuff you already had, and I want to see what my kids and eventually one day my grandkids. I want them to get excited about new properties that are exciting. I want toy
let it survive.
Take a chance, right? Like just throw the dice and see what happens on something new. Like we would never get Kenner Robin Hood figures today. Like that movie would never warrant a toy line, and those were like some great Kenner toys.
I just want to shout out Adam again. I will never not shout out Adam's channel, GoFigure, because that video that you did for the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, such a great video.
Thank you.
I see someone's commented here saying the Batmobile restoration video that got them hooked. Yeah, another great video. Every video, whenever I get an alert saying that GoFigure has another video, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have to watch it because it's always, even if it's a toy line that I don't collect, it just hooks me.
Wow, I appreciate that, and because you're so kind, I'll give you a sneak peek here at something coming up.
The G.I. Joe sneak peek?
No, not the G.I. Joe sneak peek. There's a second here. So he's half done. It's coming down the pipeline, but we have a very early King Richard here.
Oh yeah,
neat.
Right, so he's been figured out. The recipe's ready to go. I just got to wait for a couple more things to come in and get some more time. I'm right in the middle of planning my summer camp for kids week coming up next week.
We've got to get you
looking forward to that video.
Well, we've got to get you posting as much as possible because your channel's underrated for what it is.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
And I think what it is just because your videos take longer to do because you're doing a lot of restoration. So like you'll work on something, it'll get sidetracked, and the video doesn't go up for a month. Then it gets on, and then YouTube kind of forgets, and then you kind of have to restart every single time. Like anything we can do to help get you, more regular.
I appreciate that. I just like making videos and fixing toys. And if it brings somebody else joy, like I love that, right? Like Xazyl, to go back to Robin Hood, to hear you like Robin Hood was like my line. I loved it as a kid. So if you're that video brought you joy, like I'm that pumps me up. I don't need 20,000 views as long as it made someone think like this is incredible. So
that's one of the lines that me and my brother connected. And so it does bring me a lot of nostalgia as well. And watching basically essentially you've gone and made figures that didn't get a release,
right?
And that sort of gave me that sort of sense like, what if, that what if feeling, like what if this was the thing, what further adventures could we have had? So the King Richard video I'm desperately waiting for. It's sort of going to be like it's like a trilogy of nostalgia because I've got the original figures, you've got the new stuff that you've done, recreated, and now the King Richard. It's I can, if you guys, even if you're not into Robin Hood, check out that because there is some genius work happening in there as far as soft goods stuff is concerned. Oh, I can't. I'm just fumbling over my words. I'm so excited. Just everyone go check it out.
Your kind words, I really do. Interesting fact that I never realized while I was working on the King Richard video, because I do a little bit of the history at the beginning, but you don't want to repeat yourself. You don't want to be like, and here's the Kenner line and do all the same stuff. So you're looking to dig a little deeper. Since Star Wars, the Kenner Star Wars line, the Robin Hood line was the first movie to figure direct line. Everything else was like an original idea or a cartoon, or like even the RoboCop line was like, it wasn't really based on the RoboCop movie. And so Robin Hood was the first figure line that Kenner put out that copied the Star Wars formula one for one.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So does the movie hold up? Because I watched that movie in the 90s. Still holds up, right?
Movie holds up.
Yeah. Okay.
People need to get over the fact that like Kevin Costner, his accent comes and goes a little bit. I don't care about that. The movies
never bothered me.
Never bothered me.
Yeah.
We live in an internet complaint age where it's like, well, I'm going to say something, so it better be negative. But that movie, like it's tough. And the Russell Crowe, Ridley Scott, Robin Hood came out, and like it was epic and it was gritty, and like now it had Alan Nadale in it from Great Big Sea, so that was exciting.
Oh yes, I've seen Great Big Sea live, not by my own choice, but yes.
Yeah. I love Great Big Sea. So
you do? Okay.
I've seen them live twice by my choice. They are fantastic. If you're watching this and you're not from Canada, check out Great Big Sea. They're good at like sea chanties and party songs. So if you want to,
look, I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I went there twice because I've seen them twice live. I won't get into why, but they do have a good, very friendly vibe and atmosphere. And when we went to see them, and then the night before we went to see Metallica, it's a very different atmosphere. Like I'll always enjoy the Metallica music more, but the vibe of those concerts is very like mosh pitty, and the stench of a certain thing that starts with the letter W in the crowd, as opposed to Great Big Sea, which is very cleanly, very, very gentlemanly type of audience, polite applause, dedicated fans. I'll give them that, even though I don't really listen to their music by choice.
I would rather listen to Great Big Sea singing about digging up a frozen horse corpse than anything Metallica sings. They are fantastic. All that to say was that Ridley Scott Robin Hood movie had every, like on paper, it should have won an Oscar, right? It had these epic shooting, cinematography, had dynamite actors, everything, but it wasn't Kevin Costner's Robin Hood. That movie just top shelf. It's just a fun adventure story. That's what we need. Just fun adventure stories. So
fair enough.
All that to say, G.I. Joes are fun to collect.
Well, we do this, right? Like we end up kind of relating things back to the other toy lines, right? So whether it is the Prince of Thieves line that I never got into, that's why I was a bit quiet about that, because saw the movie, enjoyed it. Bryan Adams had a song about it, but I didn't get into it the same way you guys did. But it's interesting to see how much joy it brought people, right? To the point that maybe it is worth watching another movie, right? And I'm in the middle of watching movies right now. Like I've got Rambo 1, 2, and 3. I was talking about it both, you guys.
Yeah.
Gotta watch one more Rambo, and then we're gonna talk about Rambo at some point on somebody's channel.
Love Rambo.
Right? And you just did a Rambo collaboration recently, Adam.
Yeah. I actually just picked up the Toy Island Rambo, where Rambo's trying very hard to be a G.I. Joe.
I had Rambo toys as a kid. I just didn't know what they were. So
yeah. Well, the Toy Island one came out in 1993. So it was like way past Joe's.
Oh, way past. Okay.
Like way past Rambo's run. It was a Zellers exclusive. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, hold on a second.
Let's go ahead.
Nice.
Right. Nice. It's getting late where you are, Xazyl. You got to be at work in a few hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna bail very soon.
That's okay. Yeah, we're not on very much longer. But
so this is the Rambo Toy Island figure.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen that before. I remember the
cartoon.
cartoon.
Very hard to be a G.I. Joe, and he comes with a crossbow. So I don't know what he's doing, but it's definitely a Rambo figure. There was 3 figures in the line. There was Rambo, the Terminator Endoskeleton, and RoboCop. That was the 3 figures that came out in that line.
So Is it the Rambo Force of Freedom line, by Coleco? Is that kind of the main
that's
one? 'Cause,
That's
you know, like
use.
I mean, and they're the right scale. So I've got a Mr. T, I've got a Michael Knight. You know, Rambo probably scale reasonably well with those guys who are just trying to get the classic like.
I'm not playing to the crowd here, but I've always wanted to make a custom Sarge to go with the Rambo Forces of Freedom line. I thought that would always be a fun crossover.
Hey, I'd be happy to see that.
I'd be happy to see that as well.
Now
Yeah.
we're talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this one might scale okay with it, but it's also very modern looking.
Yeah, I want any of the customs that I do, that they need to just fit exactly. Like you just look at them and think, oh, that could have been a thing, right?
In the 80s, yeah. So like, as opposed to the artisan nature of today's, like everything's got to look very real. This is the more innocent look, because you're vintage. That's the other thing that we don't know is that, you know, Xazyl and I, we jump back and forth between vintage and modern, but Adam is strictly vintage. Very selective on modern, if you even have any. So
no. And like I happened upon by accident that Horde Skeletor custom in my last video. I was like, look at these parts I have laying around. This could be a cool end cap to this. And
hey, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask about that. So I'm glad I have you here right now. Because it's a soft head Skeletor, if you paint over that and you squeeze that head, does it do anything to the paint?
I haven't squeezed the head yet, but I did seal it with. I cheat a little bit and I use Mod Podge on top of the paint to seal it. So it's like a glue-based sealant for crafting. Okay. So it has a little bit of flex to it. So I don't imagine it'll flake off like as easily as you think it would.
Fair enough. Cool.
Yeah, but he just that just pieced together, and he looked so good. I'm like, I gotta put this in the video. And people have been in my office since then, and like they're like, that guy looks striking. Like, when was he available? So that to me is like the win when you can put a custom figure together, either from kit bashing or from ground up, and people are like, oh, I didn't have him. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy you didn't have him. That's crazy, right? So that to me is a big win.
So, gents, final thoughts on as we're coming past the 90-minute mark on the stream already, which I'm happy to talk all day, but I just usually allot that amount of time just as a general guide. But final thoughts on collecting Joes, starting out. What advice you got to give to your
buy lots and look for a vamp. Vamps are cheap. You can get them very easy, and they're a great vehicle to build your collection around.
Xazyl?
If you've never collected G.I. Joes and you think it's something that you want to get into, buy one. And if you enjoy that one, doesn't matter which one. If you enjoy that one, well then start branching out. But if you hold one in your hand and you're going, well then don't bother putting any more time into it. You do, and they're getting more fragile now as we're getting 40 plus. Yeah. I mean, it's just all I can say is if you've never collected GI Joes before in your life and you're only getting into it now, you're very late to the game. But welcome, welcome to the collection. But it's just you got to think about why you want to do it. And if you want to do it just because you want to have a complete collection, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. Pick up one, have a look at it, see if you're into it, and then, like Adam said, buy them in a lot. But if you've got no real connection to it, you're not going to have the same nostalgic feeling that you could probably put into something else that you will find joy with.
Yeah, right. And we've always said all night is to collect what you love. I have a buddy who loves Captain Bucky O'Hare. I never had one, even as a kid, no desire for them. But if he loves them, like, fill your boots, man. Like, I love that.
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
My final advice is, if you follow my channel when it comes to G.I. Joe, watch all those videos, listen to everything that I say, then put on your thinking cap and do the exact opposite.
That's amazing.
Because
his advice is to watch his entire catalog of videos.
Watch the entire catalog. Don't follow anything I do, because if you're just starting out, you're gonna say, F this line, F this guy, I'm never gonna collect toys again. Because the way I go about it is overthink, think some more, think till your brain hurts, and borderline take the fun away and go, okay, I gotta reset. Because that's what I do with every single video. Have fun first is what I'm trying to say. Enjoy.
I love that. It was like, my advice to you about collecting G.I. Joe is hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all.
Yep. Hit
Watch
subscribe,
all
do
my
everything,
videos.
watch everything, and don't listen to a word I say because these guys have it right. They're doing everything opposite from me, and they seem to be having more fun. So I guess all kidding aside, right? Go with your gut. If it feels right in the initial stages, if it feels right, do it, and then tweak it along the way, right? Stick to your very basics, favorite characters, instinct. You see it there, whether it's complete or not. If your gut says buy it, you've got cash in your hand, it's a sign. Go do it, right? And then as you tweak along the way and you say, you know, maybe I do want to get complete. Maybe I'll sell this one, get a better condition one. Maybe I'll buy a different version, right? Don't take on too much. That was the joke about my channel. Don't take on too much and inundate yourself to the point that you start to get a little bit aimless. You know, you're just firing everywhere and hope that it hits a target, right? That pick your target and go for it, right? And sage advice here: keep to a budget, collect what you love, and not what other people say you should get. As cliche as it almost sounds, when you're a little overwhelmed, follow that, follow it to a T, right? And if you're a restoration guy, restore like Adam, put your skills to use. If you love a certain character and you want to go down that very deep rabbit hole, do what Xazyl does with Sergeant Slaughter, right? Hans, if he was on the stream, would be saying only click what you like, or corporation move you, Hasbro, they don't have your best interests in mind, right? That's why I hesitated a little bit on the his tank. I waited for a few unlocks before I decided about I am going to back it, but I backed it with some caveat that the unlocks will
Ben likes to have his feet in both camps, right? So I didn't pull the trigger on the his tank right away. And then I did.
And then
well, it's the whole glass half full, glass half empty.
100%.
100%. It's just it's just what I do.
If you're collecting that line and you're into the modern line and you have, like, go for it. Like you say, if that's what you're about, more power to you.
There you go. All right, gents, this has been great. Both these guys' links to their channels are in the description below. Follow them both on Instagram as well. And with that, I guess we'll just cut the stream right here before I embarrass myself some more. And I'll go find some alcohol and open some figures or something.
You're the best, Ken. Thanks for the fun.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Take care.